On these videos, I'm going to try to explain some of the most difficult problems for you guys to review for the exam 2. I say that this is the difficult problems because what I basically do is take the problems from the quizzes, analyze them, and see what are the problems that the least amount of students are able to answer correctly, and then I choose those questions, put them here in the review to explain the answers for you. I believe that's kind of the best way that I can prepare you guys for the exam. I'm gonna try to do this review in several different videos in order to cut the amount of time that each video has. I'm gonna try to keep it to about between 3 and 5 minutes at the most. So let's begin here with the first question. They're gonna go in order, so we're gonna cover elasticity first. So here's a question on elasticity. It basically says price is $1 and the total revenue is $200. If price increases to $2 and total revenue increases to $400, you know that the demand for the product is inelastic, perfectly inelastic, unitary inelastic. What you have to remember here is that when the demand is elastic, an increase in price will lead to a decrease in total revenue, and when the demand is inelastic, an increase in price will lead to an increase in total revenue. In this particular problem, it's actually made a little easier because you actually know the actual numbers, so you can calculate the total revenue because it's telling you that it's 200, and since it's telling you that the price is $1, well, that means that the quantity must be 200 because total revenue is price times quantity, and what you're doing here is multiplying that 200 times $1 to get the 200. And this is total revenue 1. When total revenue 2, what you have is an increase in the price to $2. So if you multiply the 200 quantity times the new price, which is $2, what you get is 400. So in this particular case, what you get is an increase in the price to $2, but the actual quantity stays the same. That's the only way that the price elasticity, but that the total revenue could have stayed the same. See, if the price increases to $2 and the quantity, if the quantity had changed, the total revenue would have been different. But since the quantity stayed at 200, then that was the only reason why the actual total revenue was 400. So since the quantity did not change as a result of an increase in the price, then we can say that the elasticity has to be perfectly inelastic. That means that when the price increases, the quantity stays exactly the same. So the answer to the question is perfectly inelastic. Now for this question, remember that the main thing you have to know is that the more inelastic either the supply or demand is, the less the effect of a changing price will be felt in quantity, and the more will be felt on the price. So let's try to simulate here what the question is saying with different elasticities to see how this works. So this is the quantity and this is the price. It's telling that let's start with a demand that is basically inelastic and a supply that is very inelastic too. So it will be sort of like that. We have an initial price here, and then we have a supply that is shifting to the right. So let's shift that by quite a bit so we'll know kind of the contrast. And you see that the price would shift quite a bit in this situation. Now imagine if we try to kind of make the demand a little more elastic. It's gonna get a little complicated, the graph here, but I think we can at least put one more graph. So let's say that the demand was kind of like that. You see what happens is that every time I make the demand more elastic, the change in price is gonna be reduced. And that's because I remember that in an elastic means the effect is felt on the quantity, and you see that. I'm not gonna draw it here, but not to make the diagram very complicated, but you can see that the more elastic it is, the more the change is felt on the quantity compare this point versus this point, and the more and the less is felt in the price. But the more elastic is, so this is the demand elastic, and this is the demand inelastic. The more inelastic is either demand or supply, it applies to both, the more you felt in the price. And again, that applies to both. So when the both curves are pretty inelastic, then any change in any of the two curves, it's going to be felt mostly in the price and not in the quantity. So what we're looking for is an answer choice that tells you that both curves are relatively inelastic. So it's not this one. It's not that one because it says it's elastic. It's not that one because demand is elastic. On this one, it's saying that both curves are pretty inelastic. So this will be the answer to the problem. Let's see if we can do one more problem here. Okay, on this one is asking which factor is the most important in determining the price elasticity of supply. Now remember that the price elasticity of supply has to do with how quickly producers can change their production quantity to a change in the price. So it doesn't have to do at all with how much consumers can change their consumption if the price changes, which is what the first choice tells you. The number of alternative uses for the good kind of tells you how consumers respond to a price. This is also kind of the same thing as the second choice, which tells you what are the number of close substitutes. This also tells you how consumers will react to a change in the price. The third one also has to do with consumer choice because it tells you the intensity of the need on behalf of consumers. So the only choice here that has to do with suppliers is the fourth choice that tells you the time period that the producer has to adjust inputs and outputs. And in fact, that is the main determinant of the price elasticity of supply, because in essence it's telling you how quickly or how easily producers can actually change the production they have. And the more time they have to change production, the more flexibility they have in changing the quantity produced as a response of the price.